They say the worst pain isn't physical. It's when someone you raised, someone you'd sacrifice everything for, looks at you like you're weak and laughs. I never thought I'd live to see the day my own son, my flesh and blood, would treat me like a punchline. But the day he did, everything changed. And I made a decision no parent ever dreams of making. Let me take you back to where it all started. This isn't a story of instant betrayal. No, it's a slow burn. A story of love twisted into disappointment, of respect replaced by ridicule, and how one cruel laugh became the final nail in a coffin I never wanted to build. I was never rich, never famous, never the kind of man that people pointed to on the street. But I was steady, a single father who worked 2 jobs to put food on the table, to make sure my son, Eric, never went without. His mother left when he was 4. No note, no goodbye, just the slam of a door and silence that followed. I remember holding his tiny hand that night, sitting on the edge of the bed, promising him that I'd never leave, that I'd do everything I could to give him the life he deserved. And for a while we were okay. Our home was modest. Peeling paint on the porch, creaky floors that sang with every step. But it was filled with warmth. We had our little traditions. Friday night frozen pizza, old horror movies on the living room floor, weekend morning pancakes that were always too thick, too sweet. He used to laugh at that, the right kind of laugh. The laugh of love, of comfort. Eric was bright, curious. I'd come home from long shifts at the auto shop and find him with his nose in books. Books way above his grade level. He wanted to be an engineer. Said he wanted to build machines that help people. That used to make me proud beyond words. So I worked harder, picked up night shifts, skipped meals so he could have seconds. I saved every extra dollar. When it came time for college, I drained the small retirement I'd been building just to cover his tuition down payment. He got in. Full ride after the first semester. He made Dean's List. Got internship offers from firms I'd only ever read about. He was doing it, becoming everything I had hoped for him to be. But something changed. The phone calls became shorter, less frequent. Our conversations, once full of excited plans and shared memories, turned into transactional check-ins. Hey Dad, can you transfer a bit more for the books? Dad, I need a few hundred for rent. I'll pay you back. Of course, I sent what I had. And when I didn't have it, I borrowed it. I didn't realize until too late that I was no longer a father in his eyes. I was a bank, an obligation. The shift became undeniable when he graduated. I was so proud, sitting in the back row of that auditorium, clapping until my hands were red. He looked sharp, polished in a tailored suit, clean haircut, that diploma gripped like a trophy. But when I called out his name, his smile faltered. For a second, I saw it. That flicker of embarrassment, like I didn't belong there. After the ceremony, I rushed to him, arms wide. You did it, son. He hesitated, then patted my back like I was a stranger he didn't want to offend. Yeah. Thanks for coming, Dad. Thanks for coming? He didn't introduce me to his friends. Didn't bring me into a single photo. I stood there, holding the same cheap camera I'd had for a decade, watching other parents beam while their kids pulled them into frame. I stood there like I was invisible. But that wasn't the moment. Not the moment. That came 6 months later. He'd landed a job at a prestigious tech firm in the city, one of those high-rise buildings with tinted windows and espresso machines on every floor. I hadn't seen his apartment yet, but he finally invited me, said we should catch up. I was nervous. I even bought a new button-up shirt. Well, new to me, it was from the thrift store, but it looked nice enough. I wanted to look respectable, to show him I was proud, that I'd made the effort. The apartment was everything I imagined and more. Glass walls, sleek furniture, minimalist art that probably cost more than my car. He had a wine rack. A wine rack. My son. He poured us glasses, though I'm more of a beer guy, and we sat on the balcony overlooking the city skyline. So, I said, how's work treating you? He shrugged. It's fine. Stressful. You wouldn't really get it. I blinked. Try me. He laughed. That short, dismissive kind of laugh. I mean, no offense, Dad. But fixing cars and managing million-dollar budgets aren't exactly the same thing. There it was. I should have walked out right then. But I stayed. I smiled even. I tried to keep the conversation going. He asked about my job. I told him the shop had been struggling, new competition, rising costs. I'd had to let go of one of the part-timers. I was thinking about selling some equipment to keep things afloat. That's when it happened. He chuckled. Not kindly. Not out of nervousness. He actually laughed. Man, you're still doing that? I figured you'd have quit by now. Maybe you should think about retiring or, I don't know, getting help. You're what, 60? I wasn't 60. I was 57. And the way he said it, getting help. Like I was some pathetic old man clinging to relevance. I didn't say anything at first. Couldn't. My mouth was dry. My chest felt like it was full of wet cement. He kept talking. I couldn't even follow it. Something about a new crypto investment. Then he offered to send me a couple hundred to help out. Not as a son helping a struggling father. As a charity case. That was the night something inside me quietly broke. The days after that visit were quiet, eerily so. I went back to work at the shop, hands stained with oil, boots worn down to the sole, and a back that cracked like broken glass every time I stood up too fast. But I didn't complain. I never had. I just worked. But this time, I wasn't working for my son anymore. I had spent the better part of 2 decades chasing this dream of being a provider, of building a future for him. Every scraped knuckle, every sleepless night, it had been worth it because I believed he would understand, that he would carry the torch forward, with humility and gratitude. But I saw it clearly now. The laugh, the tone, the offer of a couple $100. It all said the same thing. He thought I was beneath him, that I had failed. And maybe, just maybe, I had, but not in the way he thought. Years ago, just after his mother left, I started putting away a little money each month. Not in a normal bank account. I didn't trust those, they came with fees and strings. No, I found a small credit union in the next town over. No online access. Just paper statements, and a wooden box in my closet where I stored every slip. First, it was barely anything. 20 here, 50 there. But over the years, it grew. Especially after Eric got his scholarship. I didn't have to pay full tuition after all. I kept saving. Quietly. Consistently. I never told him about it. Never told anyone. I'd always imagined that one day, when I was gone, he'd find it. Maybe a letter tucked inside the last statement. Something like, "This was always for you. Not because you needed it, but because I wanted you to have it." But that vision had changed. Because now he didn't deserve it. Not a cent. And suddenly, that hidden account wasn't just money. It was power. It was choice. A few weeks after that visit, I drove out to the credit union. It was still there. Same creaky door, same old teller who remembered me by name. "Mr. Hill," she said, adjusting her glasses. "You haven't touched this account in years. Everything all right?" I smiled. "Everything's fine. I just need to make some changes." She led me to a small office and shut the door. There was over $127,000 in the account. All from savings, odd jobs, a few small investments I'd made after attending community finance workshops. Nothing fancy. No gambling. No crypto. Just time and effort. I set up a transfer. Not to my main bank account, but to a trust. One I was creating from scratch. I spent the next month meeting with a lawyer recommended by an old friend. Her name was Catherine. And she had kind, curious eyes that didn't blink once when I explained what I wanted. "You're disinheriting your son?" she asked. "I'm redirecting what I built," I replied, "to someone who won't laugh at it." She didn't press further, just nodded and got to work. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. No calls from Eric asking for money. No guilt twisting in my stomach like a rusted screw. Just peace. Stillness. I started fixing up the shop. Not for business, but for me. I painted the walls, replaced the busted light fixtures, even framed a few old photos of me and Eric from when he was young. Back when he still looked at me like I was someone worth looking up to. But those photos weren't on display for him anymore. They were memories. Snapshots of who we used to be, before entitlement poisoned the well. It was a Sunday morning, chilly, gray, the kind of day that smells like old rain and fresh coffee. When he showed up, Eric, unannounced, standing in the doorway of the shop in a coat that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Hey," he said. I was under the hood of a '98 Ford Ranger, wrench in hand, back aching. I didn't even look up at first. "Hey," I muttered. There was an awkward pause. Then he stepped inside. "Place looks cleaner than I remember." I nodded. "Been working on it." Another pause. "I was in the neighborhood," he said. "Figured I'd check in. See how you're holding up." "Holding up? I'm fine," I replied, still not meeting his eyes. He looked around. "So, listen, I've been thinking about what you said, about the shop struggling and all that." I stopped what I was doing, slowly turned. "You laughed," I said. "That's what I remember." He shifted. "I was joking. You know how I am." "No, I didn't. Not anymore. I was thinking," he continued, "maybe I could help you modernize the place. Bring in some tech, maybe an app for appointments. Streamline stuff. Make it more efficient." It wasn't generosity. It was business. He smelled potential and wanted a piece of it. I leaned against the truck and wiped my hands on a rag. "Why now?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe I've been thinking about legacy." Legacy. That word, coming out of his mouth, was almost comical. "I have plans for my legacy," I said quietly. "They just don't include you." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I locked eyes with him, steady and sharp. "It means you should go." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. And maybe he didn't. Maybe, for the first time in his life, he was seeing me not as a stepping stone but as a wall. A wall he couldn't climb. He left without another word. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Watching the world move on without you in the center of it. For years, my world revolved around Eric. Every dollar, every decision, every dream, it all led back to him. But now I was writing a future that had nothing to do with him. And for the first time, it felt like I was living for me. After Eric's visit, I didn't hear from him for weeks. No calls, no texts. It was a silence heavy enough to fill every corner of my life. But I didn't mind, because I had work to do. The trust was finalized. Catherine, my lawyer, made sure it was ironclad. No loopholes, no access from anyone not named within it. The beneficiary? A girl named Leah. Leah wasn't family. At least not by blood. She was the daughter of the woman who used to clean the shop back in the early 2000s. A bright-eyed, curious little thing who would sit in the corner with a coloring book while her mom mopped the floors. Over the years, she grew up around me, helped me with oil changes in high school, asked questions about how engines worked, told me she wanted to study automotive design. She never asked for anything. Never expected anything. Just listened, learned, respected the trade. When her mother passed unexpectedly in a car accident 2 years ago, Leah was left alone. No siblings. No father around. She didn't ask for help, but I offered her a job at the shop part-time to keep her steady. She said working with me made her feel close to her mom. She reminded me of myself in some ways. Resilient, steady, grounded. The kind of person who doesn't laugh at struggle. Because they understand it. So I rewrote my will. I changed everything. I wrote a letter that same week, one for Eric. I didn't send it. Not right away. I wasn't even sure if I would. But I needed to get the words out. "Eric, when you were born, I held you in my arms and promised I'd give you the world. And for most of your life I tried. Not with wealth or luxury, but with time. With sweat. With sacrifice. I used to believe you'd grow into a man who understood what that meant. But now I see that you measure worth in status. In bank accounts. In titles. You laughed at my work, dismissed my struggles, and pitted me without even asking what I'd built. I built something, Eric, and now it's going to someone who values it. This isn't revenge. This is recognition of who you are and who I've become. I wish you peace. I hope one day you understand. Dad." I folded it, sealed it, and placed it in my safe beside the finalized documents. One day he'd get it. But not yet. A few weeks later, Catherine called. "Are you sure about all this?" she asked. "It's not too late to modify the trust." "I'm sure," I said. She paused. "There's another option. You could add a clause. A challenge. Something that forces Eric to reflect." I was quiet. I hadn't considered that. "What do you have in mind?" She explained a stipulation, something buried in the fine print. If Eric wanted access to any part of the trust, he'd have to complete a task. Not a simple one. Something meaningful. A life reset. We wrote it together. In order to access any portion of the estate, Eric must live for 1 full calendar year on a modest income. No more than $35,000. He cannot use his degree, professional network, or savings. He must work a physical labor job, rent an apartment, pay bills, and keep receipts. After 1 year, he must write a 10-page reflection essay on what he learned and deliver it in person. "If he laughs again?" Catherine asked. "Then he learns nothing," I replied. "And he gets nothing." A letter sent. That night I mailed the letter. Not the full will. Just the first one I wrote. My words, my truth. I didn't expect a response. Maybe I didn't want one. But it came anyway. 3 days later I got a text. "I got your letter. I don't know what to say. You're serious." I didn't respond. A day later, another text. "Is this really about the laugh? About what I said?" Still, I said nothing. Then the phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one, but he kept calling. And after a while, I stopped declining. I just let it ring. Because the truth is, I wasn't trying to punish him. I wasn't trying to make him beg. I wanted him to sit in silence like I had, to feel the weight of words left unsaid. In the meantime, Leah had no idea what was coming. She still showed up every morning, coffee in hand, sleeves rolled up, always asking what she could learn next. I started letting her take the lead on small repairs. She was good, careful, thorough. She respected the work. One evening, I pulled her aside. "You ever think about owning your own shop one day?" I asked. She laughed nervously. "Maybe, but that takes money. Loans, investors, all the stuff I don't have." I smiled. "Not anymore." Her eyes narrowed, confused. I didn't explain right then, but I handed her a set of keys, a second set. "This place, it's going to be yours. One day soon." She didn't speak. She just looked down at the keys, then up at me, tears welling. Not of greed, not of shock, just gratitude. Real, humble, aching gratitude. That moment confirmed everything. I'd made the right choice. The envelope arrived at Eric's apartment just after New Year's Day. Thick, formal. Inside were the legal documents detailing the trust, and the conditions for claiming any of it. No loopholes, no gimmicks. Just one stark, uncompromising reality. Live on $35,000 a year. Work a labor job. No shortcuts. No titles. No safety nets. Do it for 12 months and then we'll talk. It was the first time in Eric's life someone had said, "Earn it," without offering him a parachute. The first call that changed his tone. The day he opened the envelope, he called again. This time I answered. "You really want me to live like some broke kid again?" he asked, more incredulous than angry. "No," I replied calmly. "I want you to live like I did." There was silence on the other end. "I don't need the money that bad," he finally said. "Then don't take it." He hung up, but something told me that wasn't the end. March rolled in like a bitter wind, and with it, a text. "I took a job at a warehouse in Jersey. You win." I didn't reply. This wasn't a contest. It never had been. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something shift that day. Corner turned, maybe. A crack in the ego he'd built like armor. Leah and I kept working the shop. She was now running about 40% of the repairs solo, and I had started showing her the books, how to run things, how to balance the taxes, the vendors, the under-the-hood side of business most people forget exists. She was sharp. Not just with tools, but with people. Clients liked her, trusted her. She brought in a new kind of energy the shop hadn't seen in years. By midsummer, I received a letter. Typed, neatly folded. "Dad, you were right. It's different when the work is your survival. When there's no shortcut, no title to hide behind. I come home, sir, every day, and I keep thinking about you. What it must have been like doing this with a kid to raise and no one to lean on. I'm not writing this for sympathy. I'm not even sure why I'm writing it, to be honest. Maybe because I finally get it. I thought you were weak, but you weren't. You were doing what I couldn't even imagine doing. I'm trying to figure out who I am when no one's watching. Hope the shop's doing all right. It wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning. By August, Leah had proposed a rebrand. Nothing dramatic, just a new logo, a fresh coat of paint, and a community day where locals could get free basic inspections and meet the team. The team, she called it. Not your shop. Not the garage. The team. She didn't just want to run the place. She wanted to grow it. And she did. The day of the event, the lot was full. Families, high school kids, even a few elderly clients who had been coming to me since the 90s. Someone asked where the new owner was. I pointed to Leah. She didn't correct me. She just smiled and waved. The year was nearly up. Christmas lights lined the street. And I knew Eric's time was almost done. I hadn't kept tabs on him. Didn't need to. This wasn't about monitoring. It was about whether he'd follow through. And he did. On the last day of the year, he showed up. Not in a luxury coat or fancy shoes. Just jeans, a thick hoodie, and hands that were visibly rougher than I remembered. He walked into the shop like a man unsure if he belonged. Leah saw him and smiled politely, then excused herself. He stood there, shifting awkwardly. I finished it, he said. The year, the work, the essay. He handed me a folder. I don't know if it's good enough. I opened it. Read the title page. 12 Months of Humility. What my father taught me by saying no. I didn't speak. I just looked him in the eye. You changed, I said. I had to, he replied. I took him into the back office. The same office I used to sit in while counting pennies and planning meals. I slid a copy of the trust across the desk. You held up your end, I said. So now I hold up mine. He stared at the document, eyes wide. 7 figures? He whispered. I nodded. And the shop's staying in the family. He looked confused. You mean me? I shook my head. No, Leah. She earned it. She was here when you weren't. She respects it. She's already made it better. He said nothing, just nodded slowly. I'm not leaving you nothing, Eric, I continued. There's a fund. Enough to give you a start. But the empire? That went to the one who didn't laugh. He smiled sadly but sincerely. Fair, he said. I get it now. You'd be surprised how loud peace can be. It's not the silence that comes with loneliness, or the quiet that follows grief. It's fuller, warmer, the kind that fills a room even when no one's talking. That's what my life became, slowly, after everything changed. Not empty, just full in a different way. The noise of regret had gone quiet. The echoes of anger softened. And in their place, the steady hum of something new. A legacy settled. The shop looked different now. Not drastically, but in all the ways that mattered. New tools, new signage, fresh energy. Leah's energy. I still showed up from time to time. Not as the boss anymore, just as the old man in the back who people waved at, asked about, smiled toward. Felt good. Being remembered without being needed. That's the dream, really. To build something that outlives your labor. One cold morning in February, I walked the floor before opening. I ran my hand along the workbench, saw Leah's careful handwriting on the inventory sheets, saw the tools perfectly aligned, and I smiled. I wasn't just passing this place down. I was leaving it in hands that honored it. Eric didn't take the money at first. That surprised me. He said he wanted to earn on his own first. Prove something to me, to himself. Maybe both. He took a job at a small auto shop across town. Not a managerial role. Just a guy with a wrench and a time card. He said it felt good to clock in for once and not be better than the work. Funny thing, he said one day while visiting. Turns out there's a kind of dignity in getting dirty. I nodded. Been trying to tell you that since you were 10. He chuckled. Not mockingly this time. Not from a place of superiority. Just honest laughter between two men who had finally stopped talking past each other. For years, I asked Eric to come to dinner. Holidays, birthdays, just because. And for years, he made excuses. But now he was the one who called. "Can I bring dinner by?" he asked. I didn't say yes right away. Not to punish him, just to feel the moment. To really appreciate it. "Sure," I finally said. "Don't forget dessert." He brought lasagna. And a chocolate pie. He stayed for hours. Talked about the guys at the shop, about how hard it is to find real mechanics anymore, about how he finally understood why I used to come home sore but satisfied. "I wish I'd seen it sooner," he admitted. I leaned back, fork in hand. "You weren't ready to see it. Now you are." He didn't ask for the money that night. He didn't bring up the trust, the will, the inheritance. And that's when I knew the lesson had truly landed. One afternoon, Leah came to me with a letter in her hand. "I've been accepted," she said. "Detroit, design school, full scholarship." I froze. "You're leaving?" She nodded. "Not forever, just a few years. I want to learn everything. Bring it back. Make the shop into something more." I smiled. "You don't owe me that." She stepped forward. "I want to." That night I rewrote the trust again. Leah would still inherit the shop, but not yet. While she was away, Eric would manage it. Temporarily. Call it faith. Or maybe just balance. The man who mocked my struggle would now protect it, even if only as a steward. And the girl who respected my work would return one day to lead it into the future. I've never been one for grand gestures, but some things deserve to be said. So I wrote a final letter. One neither of them would see until I was gone. To Eric and Leah, I built this place with my hands, with cracked knuckles and tired feet and long nights that never seemed to end. I built it because I wanted to give my family something more than just survival. Eric, you lost your way, but you found the road back. That matters. That redeems. Leah, you never had the name, but you had the heart. And that's what counts most. This shop belongs to both of you now. In different ways, for different reasons. Keep it honest. Keep it humble. Keep it alive. And never laugh at struggle. Because struggle is where the strongest roots grow. Dad. The camera would fade out on the shop, now renamed Struggle and Sons, a tribute to its past, promise to its future. Leah's photo hanging on the back wall, under a future owner sign. Eric at the front desk, grease on his hands, smiling as a customer drives away. And me? Well, I'm not in the frame anymore. But that's the point, isn't it? When you build something the right way, you don't need to be in the picture. Because the story keeps telling itself. Ending message to the viewer. Not all families are broken beyond repair. Sometimes it just takes distance and a little humility to find your way back. So ask yourself, if everything you built was mocked, would you still give it away? Or would you wait for someone to deserve